We will record this meeting. I didn't get your question. Record Punta de Vacas?
Yeah, Tito says that now some people went to the park and they are celebrating there as well. But he stayed
yes,
here because he had this organized already. Ideally for us would be to get both.
Yes.
Or Tito talking from the park. Can you do that technically?
No, not both cannot be done. Hello, Martin. So nice to have you with us.
Hi, Martin. Martin is, she works in a group of ceremonies. She's from France.
Yes.
Hola.
Hola.
Hello,
Hola.
Firuzul. Firuzul, you are on mute.
Tito is mute.
Now, Firuzul is trying to speak. So,
Who?
Firuzul Islam.
Ah,
You are on mute, Firuzul.
no, I see him with the mic open now.
Not Tito, Firuzul.
Yeah, I saw him, Firuzul. Yeah.
Firuzul is with mic closed.
Ah, I see it on my screen that is open.
Yes. In mine also.
Maybe something of his connection. Baldy is coming in there.
दरवाजा बंद कर दो. We can pause.
This idea of talking about the process of how this event happened came in the 50th anniversary in Punta de Vacas and was an idea of a friend of us, Mr. Pucci Pellegrini. You all remember that he was in the Philippines.
In Hong Kong and Philippines.
Exactly. And he says, hey, why we don't do after the act, after everything happened, because we have a very windy day, this 15, well, Antonio D gave a magnificent speech. And I come up with my memories and I remember everything. So since then, I think I did a couple of times, no? And we can say a few items, few milestones, but say that are important, you know, because in a way, this is the end of the first stage of what we call it the movement. The first stage, the movement started in 61, 62. We started with groups here, with groups there, retreats, seminar, some materials that Silo gave us. And one day, this stage end up in a long retreat in the north of Argentina, which is a selvatic, is a jungle. Because at that time, he already, Silo won, we have our own premises, our own place, you know, but it failed, it didn't work. So just was for that event only. And when we were in there, you can imagine in the middle of the jungle, in a cabin made of wood and mud, very provisional, he usually talk, we did some exercises about the centers. And we did that, we were in this environment. And all of a sudden, one day he says, well, we are going to use the name of Silo. Wow, this is 66, 67. And wow, Silo, how come, when, how, we didn't know. So just was an introduction, you know. And well, in that moment, he did some biblical mentions, you know, was a name of somebody with that name, Siloh, in the Genesis. I say, oh my God, what is this? For me, it was a shock, you know. I didn't know we have to do something with this. But then later on, I understood what he tried to do, because when we arrived to Canary Island and he mentioned the Buddha, really what he was doing at that time was giving a frame where he is placed, you know, because he's not placed as a philosophy teacher or as a giving an opinion only or as a writer. No, he is in that particular level of high spiritual figures. And but of course we did not understand at that time, but well, this was happened. We have this name, Siloh. Few weeks later, he says, well, when you are doing groups, when you come back to the cities and we build groups, that this is the moment we have some growth, especially in Buenos Aires and other towns, and in Santiago, we started at that time. And he says, well, when you are doing this activity, and as a matter of fact, as an emission, we, because he always talk in plural, you know that? He says always we, he never used to say I. So when he says we going to launch the Siloh phenomenon, he used that expression. I hope in English is correct, you know?
Yes.
Wow, we saw what will be that, you know? So we end up the 67 with that items, mentions, and we come back to the city, we started the groups, and in the 68, at the middle of 68, he invited us in a meeting here in downtown Mendoza, and he says, well, it's time we begin to do this activity of present to the public this Siloh phenomenon. To the public, we say, but we were a few. We were not 2 or 3. We were no, as we say in a joke, we were 5 or 6. But to the public, and we were under dictatorship. You know, everything was a censorship. My goodness. Okay. And little by little, things start to move. And he presented, remember this little card with a picture, with a shadow, and says, my teaching is not for the successful people, it's for the one who have the failure in their heart. Wow, what a message. Because actually what Siloh was doing at that time, he was changing the language we use, the language and the contents little by little. Well, this little by little start and advance the 68, he says, now come the 2 or 3 milestones. He says, we need a piece of land in the mountain. Wow, in a precise location. But in this precise location, actually is now Punta de Vacas, is state land, is not private land, is from the state, is because we are in a frontier with Chile. So it's very hard to have access to some, I don't know how you say it, to some
private property there.
Exactly, no, exactly. But nevertheless, we move, we talk here and there, and we say, well, we better talk to the people who used to go to the mountains. You know, the people who like to sky mountains. And one guy, only one, knew one guy from real estate that he says to him, I own land over there. My goodness, this is surprise. And this is the land who is in Punta de Vacas, beyond the river, the little river that we have. So we have the route, the road, the land, and the river. So he has the land from the river up. And I learned later on that Silo went there to, when we find this information, Silo went there to see it, to have a look. And he liked it very much. As a matter of fact, he already saw this water coming up this in this hill, and he says, I will be there. And it's very far from the beginning of this land. So we have now to work out that this real estate person really give us some piece of land. And finally, we achieved a commitment for 6 months, you know, symbolic. So we knew now that Silo will be there only 6 months, not forever. Because as soon as we got this land and we got this authorization to go there, he says, I will be settled there. My goodness, settled there in the mountain. It's so cold, so windy. Well, anyway, so we prepare many things with the, usually, you know, this is a very important lesson for us. Silo never worked alone, always was with a close team close to him, no? Like Ana Luisa, Benenati, Pepe Osan, 2 or 3 more, not many more. But with them, he used to about, for instance, he asked one of these guys who was a lawyer, hey, go and check if really this guy is owned this land, because it's very unusual. So go to the government offices, and yes, he owned that land, and he owns many hectares there. So finally, we organized the day to go there. And of course, Ana Luisa was a very important support, because find the truck, find the woods to reach there. We find some, of course, cement. We find oil for the lamps. Well, tools, many things. We fill up a truck, and we have 2 or 3 more cars and a jeep. He liked to go there with a jeep, because one of our members was a teacher outside the city, so he used the jeep to go to teach. So Silo asked her, please come up with that, because it will be very good. And he used that car, that particular car, to go to talk to the military, because when we arrived there, it was full of gendarmeria, ¿cómo se dice? Gendarmes.
Yeah,
so,
gendarmes.
Gendarmes. So this is a special army for frontiers. They check everything. And now, even now, they are still there. And they look up very suspicious, you know, and Silo go with the car, talk to them and come back. And then we put together everything in down, and now we have to put all these items, go to this little river. And in this moment, this is something interesting, because it has something to do with the harangue. Somebody said, some local members come to help here. Some local gauchos came to help. And one day say, hey, we can ask the horse and the car to somebody nearby. Okay, let's have this car and the horse. So we use the car, we fill up the car with the horse, but what happened? The horse move around, jump, and everything fall down. So we have to do it again. And now, surprisingly, Silo was the only one who calmed down the horse and used to that the horse helped us to walk this one mile, maybe, bringing that. And my idea is that this is the origin of this metaphor he used in the speech when he talked about the ¿cómo se dice? El carro del deseo, the wishful car.
Yeah, it's in the Arang. He takes that story about the traveler that goes in a cart and then goes decorating the cart. So it's a cart.
Exactly. I think this comes from this moment.
Very good. I wouldn't have imagined that.
Yeah, it was for real. So I tell everybody the car existed. And then we left the day he finished, and two friends stay with him 2 weeks. And we left, and he stayed there by himself in the mountain. We didn't know much about that. We learned later on that he went to Chile, remember, and he has these speeches in the Black Island, in this Neruda place, the dialogue of the Black Island, very poetic, very important. Now is in the same style of the jargon, of the harangue, we'll use later. And then time passed, and what happened? He was here in the mountain, and imagine this, and he sent us a telegram, a telegram at that time, and invite us because there was a local inn in the mountains for people who like to travel. And the telegram says, I invite you here for a meeting, come next Saturday, we will talk about to do something, hugs, Silo. Whoa. There we go. A group of, I don't know, maybe 10 people. And then we see him, I imagine he was in the mountain, cold, with a lot of clothes. No. He was very dynamic, very energetic, was usually high spirit, and says, well, using like that, we have to do this public act. We are all going to organize this special chat with the special subjects. So what do you think? Well, maybe, yes, why not? And of course, we have to ask permission. We have to be authorized by the authorities, by these dictators. And the lawyer we have did that workshop, work paper, no, you say the paperwork. And
yeah, all the administrative papers to apply.
Exactly. And there come the saying that Silo used many times. Well, if you want to talk to the stones, okay, go to talk to the stones. Come from that moment, because the guy who gives the authorization find very funny to do a public act in the middle of the mountains, because they deny us to do in the city. We ask also, maybe we can do in the city. No. No complications. So then we begin to prepare everything, and we were two or three groups plus this little team together with Silo that helped him with, I imagine, with food. They prepare soya crackers. You know soya?
Yes.
Crackers. And he says, well, this is good because are so strong, we can use as a weapon, and then because they did it in a way that will last these several months. And well, we prepared so many things, and you know, and also, I don't know if you hear, but Benenati, that is the man who finds things, find this device that when you put on fire, this device produces electricity, and then Silo will be able in the Hermitage to have light, electric light, and everybody will think, wow, how this guy is doing that? It's impossible. Well, we have this device that on top of everything unusual was made in Russia. Russia made. And how this come to Mendoza is unthinkable. So this is something that Silo produced this energy that put together things that usually it's not possible to put this card, this device, this permission, etc., etc. So well, everything was prepared for that, and the day arrived. So we have different tasks. You know, I remember I have the task to talk to the buses, to hire the buses, to do publicity, to public the event in the city. We place some public ads in the newspaper. And the most important things, our group was able to get the recorder to record the harangue, because at that time, in those days, nobody had a recorder. We recorded with tape, you know. But I have a medical doctor, an uncle, that used for his job. So we borrow from him. But this gives you the idea of this man so special. When we have to connect this recorder to the microphone in the mountains without a plug, without electricity. So he himself did an adaptation to the battery. So we have the master of humanity is also an electrician. So what is this? It's incredible, you know. And then on top of all that, he says, well, we need to put something, some references, something that people know where they are going to look, because the mountain is so huge. So from this little remark came the idea of the three
masts with flags.
Exactly, with the yellow banners or the yellow flags. And I tell you, he says, the people will ask, how many flyers are? And they will come out with some superstition. So we are going to use 13, not 10, neither 12. We are going to put, and we have to draw, ¿cómo se dice? To prepare 13.
To make the flags.
Incredible. Exactly. And Benenati was more in that activity. So, well, everything was prepared. We arrived there. Some people came from buses, even from Buenos Aires, from very far away. The other people came from near Cordoba, the other from here. And of course, you all came from Santiago. And we have a previous speaker, our friend from Chile, that started reading these dialogues from the Black Island in Chile. So that when I hear that, I say, oh my God, okay, the public act started, because give us the tone, you know, the tone that is something regarding these spiritual ideas, etc. No?
It's called the
when he
Dialogues
finished-
of Isla Negra. Probably you have
Eso,
seen.
eso,
There
eso.
were dialogues that he had 6 months before the Punta de Vaca thing about Tito, no? You were there as well.
Sí, sí, sí. Exactly.
Isla Negra
exactly.
is where a famous poet that was a Nobel Prize, Pablo Neruda, has his house by the sea. So it's like, it has a mystique about it. It's very well known all over Chile because he lived there, the great poet that Chile has had, you see.
Exactly.
All these things it put together.
Put together. And I remember, well, many good ideas given that speech. And so, well, we were there in a moment of silence because this speaker finished, and silence, the sunny day, the mountains, and one of little by little, Silo start walking down the side of this little hill that we study carefully the location, and we arrived to the conclusion that is where now is the monolith in Punta de Vacas. Where is the monolith now was the day of the harang. He did it on purpose to celebrate that. The only thing is now with the machine, he put flat, very flat. At that time was like this. So he came with some little purse or something put on floor, and he had this caduceo. ¿Cómo se dice, Antonio? Caduceo.
Metal bar is a caduceus.
Metal bar, and that let me tell you, he prepared himself this metal bar in a lab that he had with Berenati, a lab of the early lab belonging to the so-called matter discipline, with all these devices. And in this metal bar was empty, and there was 4 tubes. One tube with a green, another red, another yellow, and another blue. So have some liquid that will produce some kind of energy for each center. What do you think about that? He prepared many little details, incredible. And some signs, some have some sign, we don't know in which language, I don't know, it's Sanskrit or whatever. And in any case, he was all the time with this metal bar like this, and call my surprise, because why he need to do that, no? But this is my moment of my personal testimony, Antonio, because I follow the speech, and we never heard that subject. We never heard him talk like that, so passionate about stop violence, and this political will never find a way. And now it seems, this harang is for since yesterday, because now it's happening that this crazy moment of violence. Who will stop this? Well, my goodness, we never heard him talk about these things. And of course, to surpass suffering. So anyway, everything was kindly developed, very poetically. And in the moment he decided at the end, when in the speech says, and now I give to you this hope to learn to love, learn to laugh. You remember this? I handle you this hope. He gave the metal bar to the first guy in the public. And this metal bar went all over the people, one by one, hand by hand. And of course, that we helped him to prepare the public act. We didn't know that that will happen. So we were thinking what will happen with the caduceus, So finally, one of these members of the early days in Buenos Aires, find the caduceus, give to Silo, Silo gives to Antonio, Antonio to his uncle, and still was recovered and is in the Silo's library now. And but the detail to add to this is that this member that find the caduceus at the end of the public act, when the park of Punta de Vaca was built and the monolith was established, Silo asked for him to invite him that he come please to visit. Manuel Matesanz, that incidentally was one of the first members to have growth. He have the first big groups in Buenos Aires for the first time. And Silo says to him, okay, now here is your caduceus, but in big side. What do you think? So the monolith is, how can I say, the equivalent to this caduceus, but the big side, connecting the levels.
Planes.
No?
Planes, the planes of the higher
Exactly.
consciousness.
Exactly. And this is Silo, no? Always there is something up, something new, something, ¿cómo se dice? Some novelty.
Unexpected, no?
Unexpected, exactly. So when he explained to me this, I was with the eye like this. I never imagined that he will thinking to recover connection with you and bring him to see the monolith. So well, and the public ended up, everything was nice. We heard all that. So now comes the second part, that is the press conference in a hotel, the big hotel. He answered to the newsman that went there, etc., etc. But I would like to add something, that one of the members of the group in Mendoza contact a newsman from Buenos Aires at the beginning of this. And this came earlier to the public act and want to interview Silo before the public act. And this conversation is very interesting because I was present there. We were 4 or 5 in a house is close to where is Silo's house now. And of course, the situation was very, very. He's a guy from the big city, come from Buenos Aires, so used to big buildings, hurry, everything in a hurry. I don't know, other lifestyle. And then in Mendoza, everything's calmed down. So the guy didn't know how to talk to him. And anyway, he have this, well, I have 2 or 3 questions, if you allow me to. Please go ahead. The first thing he says, why you decided to do this public act here under the dictatorship? Why? And Silo says, well, we were in a meeting like this with few members, and as we say, now it's time to speak to the public, to give our point of view to the public. Let's do it. And I say, okay, I volunteer, he says. I volunteer. And this was the first question. The second question was, do you have some written down, something, guideline that you can give me as introduction? And says, no, I consider myself in the condition I can improvise. Imagine, improvise. And then when we was there with a speech so well organized, I say, oh my goodness, what improvisation. And here comes a piece of information that maybe some people know, some people don't. But probably you remember that he handled a little biographical information about him, very short. Then in a given moment, he explained that he visited Europe, and in Europe he visited Naples, and there he met a group of people that in a way he understood. They asked him to do something or explain to the world a new teaching, something like that, no? So these newsmen have this very curious, this, can you explain me that? How was that? How is this? In Naples, imagine in Argentina, people from Naples are famous for pizzas, you know, no for teachings. And I says, well, was a very short, brief, and intense experience. That's all. In any case, we, the people who live around, have connected 2 or 3 moments that people ask him when he felt he have to do this mission, or he have to do this special action in the world. And one says that, well, he answered, well, I was very young. I was very young. I knew that I will have to do something. And this very young goes from 5 years old for some people to 16 years old other people. I personally never been present in that situation. But now I'd like to mention this comment that is very interesting, how he himself, when a friend of us from Chile was writing down this book, you know, this Ceylon, a master of our time, you know, Pia, asked him, no, but you are so special, you are so exceptional, etc., etc. And he says, no, just a moment. I have to do internal work from the very beginning, from the young days. This, I never miss a day without doing internal work. What do you think? I never miss a day. So all these anecdotes are so important to fill up completely the image of him, no? So finally, after the press, the press meeting, the media, we come back to the city. And when we come back to the city, we're supposed to have a meeting in a house of our member, or one member that have a little big living room. We all together get, what the most of us enter there, guy from Buenos Aires, from Córdoba, from here, from the north. And he says to us, well, now we are going to work with a little book, he called the red tapas, ¿cómo se dice?
Yeah, the covers, red covers, a red book.
Exactly, the red covers of the yellow. But what called my attention that at the end of this, or one part of this booklet, is this special message that says, well, we are going to prepare the way for the new humanity that's coming along. La nueva humanidad que está viniendo. We prepare the road or the way for the new humanity that's coming along. And that is in my mind always, because I think it's now that this moment is now. It's a new moment. Everything is interconnected with so many devices, so many, well, like this, the Zoom, so many things that he prepared for today, no? And well, that day finished. We end up, and what he wants to do, go to pick up the first papers to see the news. And I will tell something to Antonio, maybe you don't know, but when we buy at 12 p.m. at night, they are here in Mendoza, come up a newspaper, night newspaper. So he wanted to see the news, how they explain the event, no? And he explained the event, yes. Well, Silos speak in the mountains and some sounds and some. And but in a very local jargon, very local, and he didn't like very much. What they think they want us to talk to the people only here? We're going to reach London. We're going to reach Europe, the world. He was saying that walking in the street very quickly, and I say, well, that will happen one day, little by little. And later on came the news from the national magazines. And this newsman that I mentioned to you before was maybe the best article, because present pictures, big pictures, and the total harangue. No comment, no anything outside, out of theme, as we say, no? So this is more or less what happened in that day, no? And this, for me, this stage finished and came a new stage that reached till today, no? Many things happen, as you know. So, but I can add up, I can add up to this conversation the beginning of the beginning. Because how we arrived to this moment that he wanted to do a public speech, how he started. And fortunately, one member that as usually departed, as many are now few departed, was able to explain to me many details, because he accompanied him in the early days, because they were, ¿cómo se dice? Schoolmates in the secondary school. And I like this particular moment because it's very similar to this one, in a sense that he started to invite people to study different subjects in the house of one of our members. And this moment was called the study groups. And he invite, beside what is going in the university, because he was at the university second year of political science. So beside that, beside other things, he prepared this group for study. And from this group, that is similar what we do now, we study things, different subjects with monographies, etc., no? It's a kind of a cycle. And from that group start the first material he prepared with exercises. So the second moment of the first moment is when I learned. I was invited to a meeting where we did some exercises. No, I think I explained to Sudhir last time, my first contact, when we have an exercise to prepare a speech with 2 words, no, a coherent speech out of 2 words or out of subject. And he participated in that meeting too and gave a special speech, imagine. So I was totally enchanted, I may say, because what called my attention at that time was that was something local from us here in Mendoza, because we are in a province, so everything comes from outside. I come from Buenos Aires, of course, from Santiago, from Europe. And incidentally, in those days when we started, here came a Russian theater director who present UNESCO works in Mendoza 2 days, two months after was presented first time in Paris. So we were in a province that unusual things happen like this, connection with Europe, connection with I don't know, other things. And Silo move easily in those environments. Many friends, he have many friends who do theater, who do gymnastic. Well, so many things, And incidentally, now I see Gemma there. I remember the day of Tokyo. And he was a champion in gymnastic. Was champion, local champion. And he was presented to be part of the team that's supposed to go to the Olympics in those days that was to be held in Tokyo. The Olympic, when the year was held in Tokyo, Mario supposed to go in that team, but he says very humble, without any inconvenience, says, no, Argentina decided not to be part of that. So Argentina didn't send a team, okay? But why I'm saying that? Because when we were in Tokyo, I like to visit the place where was the Olympic was held. I say they have a name, a Japanese name for this, a huge event, a sport event, that now they want to throw it away, and they are people complaining. And I say, well, how things are connected. But anyway, in the day of Canary Island, in the first part, people ask him about that. And it's interesting, his comment, because he says, well, at that time, teenagers like to join teams for play games, especially soccer, But I didn't like this idea of compete with others. I like to compete with myself. And Lucas like that, and this is still, we have to do it. We have to try to do our best with ourselves, and of course, helping others. And this was the day of when he was a gymnastic. So he was finishing his gymnastic day. He was in the university doing this meeting at this house, and the group started. Okay? So this was 61, 62. And there was a little letter he prepared one day about the origin of the movement. And we did a meeting here in Mendoza, maybe 65, 66, something like that. And was interesting, his comment, because he says, origin of the movement. One day, we decided to communicate to the first member that the movement begin his activities. The member was Benenati.
Yes.
But the thing is that the origin is a communication. Not my decision to do something, or we decided to, no. We communicated to the first member the movement start his activities. I like that very much. So, well, in short, 64, the first retreat, 65, another retreat, and people go to different places of Latin America, Uruguay, etc., Peru, etc., etc. And then we did the first international meeting. You cannot imagine, in Bolivia, because this member that explained to me the origin, Alberto Leiva, he asked himself, the mission, please go to Bolivia, because nobody will go there. But we know these people are special, these special ethnical, ¿cómo se dice? Original people are very interesting. So our first international meeting was in La Paz, Bolivia. And we have some inconveniences at the time, at the beginning, especially the group that was close to him, and find many inconveniences, etc., etc. And I would like to say something later. And when we have our meeting, our formal meeting, we came from here, from Mendoza in buses and train, would take 3 or 4 days to arrive there. He says, he began the conversation. Well, my friend, I hear that there are so many inconveniences, so many difficulties. So we better stop this process. We better cancel. Imagine, 65. And we say, whoa. And he says, because this is important for me, but what we are going to tell the people, to the other people who are around us, well, we tell them we fail. What's a failure? Good Lord, in Bolivia. Well, anyway, we end up the meeting, we come back to our inns where we're located. And the next day, with my friend that is close by, one block from here, another survivor, we were walking from downtown La Paz, and we saw a silhouette. Do you say a silhouette?
Silhouette,
far.
yeah.
And I say, well, I think it's Silo there. And we arrived there. Hey, hello, how are you? Good night, good evening. Yes, hello. Oh, you are walking by. Yes, very interesting. He light up. This is something very interesting of his behavior. When there is always something very intense, very, I may say, dramatic, he is more patient than ever. So we were eager to know what will happen, how this continue. And he says, well, smoking cigarettes. What do you have something to do tomorrow? No, not really. Well, if you like, in that place, there is a coffee shop called La Paz, Peace. And there at 6 o'clock, we are going to hold a meeting. So you're please welcome. So we arrive there, and there he prepared beforehand the tables, all the tables for maybe close to 20 members, the travelers and the local people. And I ask you something. What do you think we find in front of the place for each member? No, we have the chair, the table, and what was in front, like this, no? Was in front.
An orange bottle.
Exactly. An orange bottle.
It's because you told me the stories about the time. I didn't know that.
Oh my God. For me, I was so happy to see this orange. I will not say the brand name, but from our childhood. And first time we saw the orange color, and immediately he prepared this, that, and so on. So we come back to the cities and we are going to do this and that. And so from one day that we fail, the second day we have the orange color. And then the next step was some people will continue in the city doing groups, and we are going to prepare the long retreat. That is the one I mentioned, we went to the jungle. So we, in this moment, the first stage, more or less, is finishing. So I can adapt now that since we fail to hold this place, the first place, Silo asked Alberto, please look for a permanent place and under our name in the jungle, because it's an unusual landscape and we need to, it's something that always has these details, you know, these details. He liked that the people leave the ordinary place when they leave. They leave the cities, leave the home, and go to some unusual landscape. So the mind works in a different way. That is the origin behind the parks. Go a little bit out of the city with other landscapes so you can think in yourself better. And Alberto, another member, find the place. Is what is called now Yala, that you heard. Yala was the second harang and the forbidden harang, the day that the men went to the moon. And he started the speech with that. One member is in the moon and one member is silent in the earth. But what the friend explained me when I was visiting there is that the enormous amount of people that went to that day, different than here in Punta de Vacas, that we were a few, only we, the members. There came the public, the peasant, because they hear that somebody will speak to them, you know. And then it was also was a little forest, with a forest, a river and a forest. And they were surprised because they published, of course, a couple of ads in newspaper, and was very surprised. But let me tell you the little story within this. Why this harang was forbidden? Because in a way, Silo provoke that. You say that, provoke?
Provoke, yeah. Correct.
Because Silo asked one of our members, that is Sandra know her in the north, the one who, Ana Lopez, one our women that build things, he says to her, okay, tomorrow, 9:45, 9:45, we meet in downtown. This Jujuy is a very small city. Of course, there is a square. In front is the government, the bishop place, and the army and the policeman. So I meet you there 15 minutes before noon. I'll be there. You came with the black suit, the black dress, and the symbol of the school in your chest. Imagine, we're talking about 69, June. Yes, you think so, Mario? Yes, will you please do so? And Mario prepared the speech at that time. He wrote down. And you are going to do this. You walk inside and give to the people who handle to the bishop Catholic bishop, imagine. And later you come here, and later we see here how he will come walking down quickly 10 minutes later. And that's exactly what happened. The guy came down walking, went to the government house, and then walk again, running, no walking, running to the police station to forbid the public act. Because as you remember the text of this harangue, he criticized seriously the Catholic Church. You think this, you are the kingdom is in this land? I don't know. He was very mad with these people. And of course, they will not allow that. But he prepared a cassette, the first recording in a cassette, and the people was able to hear the harangue in any case. And now came another little piece of information, because this member, Alberto, visit us Mendoza. He used to live in Canary Island often, and says, well, you know, one day I want to show the original harangue he still recorded, and we have in a reel, but we have to make it digital to pass to the digital format, and I need some informatic people. We are talking now 10 years ago or 8 years ago. And finally, Alberto did that and sent us to 3 people. One of them was me. And he says, here is digital, the original harangue, and something else. Something else. Well, listen. So I listen, and in shock. Here is the text that probably you know that says, the final end of the school, el último fin de la escuela, the final end of the school. There is a text that talk about that our subject is time and space and the universe, and I don't know, well, many elaborated subjects. But he never explained to us that. He never went over to that. So I asked Alberto, say, well, how this come? How this was recorded? Once the harangue, again, this institution, and now this so profound for the school. And he says, well, Mario says, just in case, wherever is needed, anything can happen, we have that. So we don't know if he thought that maybe the army will put him in jail and we don't hear from him anymore. At least we have 2 recorders. And this is the origin of this material. As you can see, it's somebody so special that is able to do this kind of thing. They provoke the charge, provoke the army, write down the harangue, write down something for the universe. And this is what really happened. Then we went to the Cordoba, and this is another forbidden speech.
Story.
And then finally we went to Buenos Aires. I was able to go there to the big square. You know, they have these big places in downtown the city. And we went there, many of us, to see if the public act will be held. But immediately the police arrived. So we all ran away. And we ran away here and ran away there. And still like the anecdote that there was, you know, there was this guy, how you say this, who give us evangelic speeches.
A preacher.
A preacher.
A preacher. And over a little chair. And when he saw so many people coming, he says, oh, God is helping us. You come to hear God. And immediately we jump over him and he fall down. So the preacher went down, we all running away, the police running far. Well, this was a chaos, a chaos. And of course, at the end of the day, we did the same thing. We met in the house of one of the members, Petty, that unfortunately he had catch a cold at that time. And we reproduce all this situation, all these events, and he did a press conference before. So we were eager to know the following day, what the press will say, what will say in the capital of this country, you know. But look at this man, how special. In that situation, no, at maybe 10 p.m., full of people in a house in downtown, a big city, he says, excuse me, I have to make a phone call. Okay, so he went to the phone, you know, these old phones, black with disc, and say, hello, happy birthday, Dad. He was celebrating his dad's birthday from the day of this forbidden lecture. Oh, my goodness. Okay, bye-bye. Yes, I will see you soon. Bye, Dad. Hung up. Let's continue. Let's be in theme. So always there's so many interesting combinations, you know. And well, the rest of the story, we more or less know what happened, you know. But no, I will end up with this because it's interesting.
It is.
When we finish, we still have, we were doing groups. And the 1st of May in the 70, 1 year later, he asked we do the first entrance to the school. To the school, the people who finished the mission. So there we arrived 3. No, we arrived 6. One, he says, no, you cannot continue because you are too noisy, forget it. And the other 2, he says, no, you come back next year. And some other people were not invited. And I asked him, how come, why? They don't have the right attitude. Wow. So we have the harangue, the public life, the movement, the groups, all these retreat, the exercises, and now the school. And I enter because I build a group. The other 2 were, let's say today, like administrative activities, admin activities, the actions good for the whole. And there was a woman, a very nice woman who was with us in the jungle, in the retreat. And I didn't know exactly why was that. Till I came back to Mendoza and I tried to find out. I always trying to write down the whole puzzle, you know, the puzzle. And says, well, because she helped to print the first book, Silo and Deliberation. The first book, Silo and Deliberation, who collect the harangues and other topics, was published in Mendoza in the printer of this family, because here we have a local paper, that the local paper name was The Street. and have this printer, all printed like Gutenberg style, not modern. And he was very grateful to his father because accept to do that in the dictatorship, in the, you know, all this situation, difficult situation. So as you can see, so many details happen. But what I wanted to, we can finish this conversation, is one day later, maybe, I don't know, 1 or 2 years later, we asked him, because Punta de Vacas end up there empty, nothing there, you know. So we crossed by going to Chile and come back, and we saw the mountain, not even a sample of anything. And he says, when we talked to him, he said, well, that existed. They cannot say didn't exist. So this happened. In another occasion, again, we go to the topic, and he says, well, but it's important to notice, as you know, he always adapts something, He says, at that time, we not only given a speech with our topic, more important topic that we rescue from history that some people forgot, and some people not even mentioned. For instance, the topic of suffering is very clear in the East, in the Far East. Well, in India, you know, it's a dukkha, it's a word, Buddha. But in the East, in the West, not even is mentioned the word of suffering. Can imagine what a situation. And says, what we did there, we present a frame, our frame. Within this frame, we speak later on. And he added up, if we were painters of pictures, we begin for the frame first of all. We paint the frame. And later on, we'll see what we do with the canvas. But in the frame we paint, non-violence, surpass suffering. With this frame, we can do later on wherever we can. Not like others that they never put a frame and they say any kind of nonsense. My goodness. So this is Silo in his full range, you know, painters, electrician, call the family, many things. This is what I think I can present today to celebrate this testimony day of the testimony.
Beautiful, Tito. Very good, no?
Indeed, a wonderful thing for all of us who are in the movement, around the movement, connected and living it. It's a wonderful thing. Can I, before going much into time, can I request Antonio, because Antonio was also there on 4th May 1969, to share some of his experiences.
Yes.
Antonio, this comes unannounced in advance, but I'm sure you will not mind.
No, but one thing to be made clear, Sudhir, I mean, I came basically to listen to Tito. This is true in the sense that he has a memory that I lack completely because I wasn't connected to that group in Mendoza, and also he started 5 or 6 years before.
Yes.
And I came at the point in Santiago in 1968 when all this work that Tito is describing, that are the preliminaries of the organization that later on was able to organize the 4th of May in Mendoza. all these things, I mean, I wasn't participating directly there, but some of the people who had been in those trainings, like for example in Yala, they took the mission when that retreat ended of forming an organization similar to the organization that existed at that point in a few places, something in Bolivia, as Tito was saying, something in Buenos Aires, something in Cordoba, all of Tito and his friends in Mendoza, and of course in Santiago. Santiago is the capital of Chile, and Santiago and Mendoza are separated by the highest mountains in Latin America. Mount Aconcagua is there in the vicinity, and then you have to keep climbing after Punta de Vacas, and then you started to descend into the valleys of Santiago, a place called Los Andes, and from there you reach the capital in 80 kilometers or something like that, not far. And that being the capital of a country, it had lots of things. It had lots of activity. It had universities. It had the administration of the country is a very elongated country, Chile, and therefore everything is centralized almost in the capital. So there were lots of people around. There were lots of people in search of the big answers, if you want, of the time. There was a generational component in the young people who were unhappy about what was happening until then. It was a fairly conservative country, Chile. I think we were under a conservative government, and therefore the left was very active in developing its own message. And it's like that a couple of years later, in 1970, Allende, the first leftist government, socialist government in Chile ever, won the election. And then that later on provoked, after a couple of years, the coup d'etat with Pinochet and established the dictatorship. But what I want to tell you is that the ferment of change, especially among younger people, was active. They were very receptive to ideas. And as I mentioned in that speech that I made celebrating the 50th anniversary of the Arang in Punta de Vacas, I told you that I was finishing my law studies. But I discovered by that point that I did not want to be a lawyer. In fact, I was working with lawyers as my employment. And then a couple of times they say, Antonio, you don't seem to be very interested in all the things that we do here. And I just smile and no, it's because I am learning, etc. I found it terribly boring. I just worked there to be paid a salary that I needed to complement my studies. But when I heard about the initial groups of they call it la cosa, the thing, they didn't give properly a name. And they were saying that something quite extraordinary, a message from Silo would come next year in Mendoza. I felt very interested. It was like a magnet to me. I said, because some of the things that they were mentioning, I have to break here for a bit and explain that lots of materials, written text, for example, the method, the fundamentals about the method was already fully compounded by them, and they circulated in photocopies format or in mimeographic format. And so we were reading when joining the groups and listening about this idea and what was going to happen the following year. Already that was supported by very clear explanations that I found it, incredible because of the clarity of the thinking, because the usefulness, and because the range and the viewpoints. I mean, I recognize those things that we are saying, the contents of those materials as something that was beyond the reach and the type of narratives that I was in contact, even within academic or work or university environment. So that opened in myself a sort of excitement, and all that also came together with these things that Tito is pinpointing regarding the initial years that he lived with the initial groups working with Silo. It had a sort of mythical content. Everything that was written and that was explained had something of magic, had something of different from everything in the way of articulating the speech. Anything that you listened in your day-to-day life, like a different concept of space and time. It had a vision of history and the future and the possibility of transforming yourself. That was one of the messages that we had, that the human being could reach a higher level of consciousness, and that the people, the normal people, they had no freedom because they could not control the minds and the feelings. And in reality, freedom in the way that the system proclaims is inexistent. I had been questioning some of these things in my own sort of personal experience since I was a teenager, since I was 15 or something like that at school, I remember. I couldn't believe in the religion. I went to Catholic schools, but I couldn't believe in what was said because it was contradictory. They said that God was full of love and was so concerned about every one of us, etc., etc., and that we have been created and we were like insignificant creations. But on the other hand, we had to live in a world full of cruelty and full of injustice. And so my question, even to the priest that taught us religion, I said, how God can be so good and so compassionate and so extraordinary in any way, and have created a human being that is so crap, so suffering, so contradictory. And so there is something with the work that he did, or is something with the concept that you have about that. So this type of questionings I want were topics of discussion amongst many of the people that we approached to form the initial groups in Santiago. And I suspect the same thing happened in Mendoza and happened in all the towns where the message of Silo, even before the 4th of May, started to spread. And it was so attractive, was so solid, was so articulate that people started to follow. And when he designed the strategies or the plans, or we ran campaigns, for example, covering the walls of the city saying Silo is coming or Silo is good. We were saying, creating a contrast of being able to spread a message, also creating an association with the return of Christ. Christ is returning, and it came to Argentina, sort of things that were sort of mythical, that were magical, but very provocative at the same time, considering the way of thinking and the ferment of people that was in the younger generation in Chile at the time. And well, I mean, according to Silos describing the initial years, you can see all that perspective that was beyond the time and the space where all was happening. So obviously he was seeing the world and he was understanding even the smallest actions around in a context that was almost symbolic, without time, in a space that was the whole universe. So it's clearly that he had the project of launching the humanism, universalist humanism. From that moment, he had thought about a color that would be adequate. He had thought about so many different details that you could see a disproportion between the rituals, the ceremonial way in which he developed some of these initial actions, and what really was there. If you could look at with the eyes of a normal person, you will say, well, but nothing of this is happening here. Yet it was happening because Silo, with his construct, with his project, with his imagination, And with that inner conviction that he had, was creating it there and then with the people who were around. We were the raw material that existed at the time, and therefore he worked with us. As if you make a figure with mud and you start to mold it, and in the end you come to a piece of art, magnificent, impossible to explain. And it's very interesting that comment that Silo made also about the frame, that how you put the fundamental elements of what is the content of the message and what will represent the contribution of universalist humanism to humanity. Because really, under all the different and previous stages, what has remained is the pain and suffering in human being and therefore in society around. Because society is the creation of human beings. And obviously, suffering and pain comes from there, from the individual. And to approach then the transformation of the world, starting and validating in such a profound manner the individual, the human being, each one of us, that had a characteristics that were completely diametrically opposed to anything that was said before. Because although they have been great founders in humanity that have developed very important moral systems, have emphasized some aspects of behavior, the vision that Silo has regarding the transformation of every human being as a possibility, the capacity within ourselves to reach higher levels of consciousness and understanding and comprehension, we can see that in the model, in the example of Silo. And that is what, for example, Tito just explained when he said in that recollection that Pia includes in the book that he writes about conversations with Silo, that he said, I haven't spent one day of my life without working over myself. So he is the result, the model, and the example of that transformation is possible. So again, he brings the example to us. He brings the example to our level. And that bar that Silo had in Punta de Vacas when he officially launches the movement. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes,
I
yes.
don't know who spoke.
Yes, it's a microphone open. Another comment. Yeah. Well, when he that caduceus, that metal bar is in tradition, in religious traditions, in mystical traditions, is a symbol of a moral authority, of somebody that has a message to give, somebody that has the point of connection with another level, with another space, with another level of consciousness, if you want. It represents a sort of authority, but it's a tacit authority. It's not the kings, it's not the political power, it's not the military authority, but you can see that even officers in the armies, they carry some sort of bar that they have in the hand. It's always they show some sort of authority that in our case is a moral authority. And that is the same model that I had not made that relationship, but Silo has explained it with the monoliths in the parks that connects the school, that is like the higher level of preparation of those who follow the teachings of Silo, and other planes of connection from where the inspiration comes that later on will allow them to disseminate the teachings through their own change and transformation. And it's fantastic. The more that you start to look at the details, the more that you look at another manner of thinking, another level of consciousness in action, but starting with nothing, starting with just other human beings. And that is another observation that can profoundly reaffirm our faith in what we are doing. Doesn't matter if we see or we do not see the results. The important thing is that in the measure of our possibilities, every day we try to change something, even if it's tiny within ourselves, and trying to do something with somebody close to us, near us, whoever we can reach. And in that way, it will end up transforming the world. And we see the results and the effects of the last 50 years that are quite considerable. And with the acceleration of history and all the resources that we have in contact with us available to be disposed of, with the technology that is connecting every single human being so quickly, where the messages can reach to points and to levels that we have never imagined, we can start to refine more the way of launching our messages and our intention to reach everyone. And I am sure that this will in the end reach the capacity to transform the direction of history and civilization and human beings. And that is amazing, because we have samples, we have seen elements of all this, and it's so different from anything else that exists until now. It's not that there is no fantastic people and people who full of principles in many cases, who have worked for the things that they have learned and applied, but what Silo developed is something quite extraordinary. With precedents, no doubt, we are coming from a continuity, from a line of history, but it's probably the most advanced because it's aiming at the fundamental indicators of pain and suffering. That is what generates violence, and that is what keeps the human being immobilized in terms of further evolution. So in terms of experience, of what did I feel and what I see today regarding Punta de Vacas is more or less what I am mentioning. And I think very valuable the contributions, of course, is the only active memory in the process that exists. And we have to tap on that because it's fascinating the way that Tito has described things. So yes, in the anniversary of 50 years, we have seen since then lots of change in the last 3 or 4 years. The parks are becoming quite mature. The school is entering into productions, the same productions that he encouraged since they were just a group of friends in the neighborhood, until the moment is the school is starting to have an impact, is developing the ability to applying the doctrine into different fields and into different experiences. And no doubt, as people were practicing and learning at the time, the more that each one of us grow further internally, the more that we will have the possibility to generate a variety of materials with clear applications into different fields of human activity and different aspects of the process of internal change that will have an incredible impact. And so it's a very valuable work, and we see that lots of things are working very well. Sometimes we say, well, wow, the world is changing so quickly, we are going to have a nuclear war and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I don't think that the intention of history or the intention of the creation or the plan of all the extraordinary people who have come and taught us things are there to collapse because some idiot presses a button and then will damage, the human creation. I don't think that will happen. But we have to be very active. We have to put forward the ideas that are the ideas of evolution, of transformation, and essentially of nonviolence in this world. But I am an optimist, and I think what we are doing is fantastic, and that we are doing it well, and that we are going to do it even better in the future. And this is a very good reason for celebration. So we have the right and we are entitled to celebrate. And I would suggest, I don't know if you have any other plans, if we do a service all together. And for that purpose, I would invite probably Sudhir to do it, because
Thank
I
you,
know how
Antonio.
well he can do it.
I think on behalf of all the participants, I can say that we are all very, very lucky, very fortunate to be hearing from you both the experiences of pre-69 and starting from 69 or a little before 69, from where you started. I think Declan has some points to mention about the next part of the proceedings. Actually, the whole program was left open that we would like to hear you both, and things started like that. But Declan mentioned to me that maybe some people have some questions. So perhaps uh, I think it will be good to do a brief experience, no doubt about it. But can we have some questions that some people may have? You are welcome to ask your questions briefly. And Tito, you can point the questions to Tito or Antonio as you like. Please go ahead, everybody. You can open your mics. And please open your cameras also, because some people are trying to take pictures. So it will be nice that we have some pictures of the event. Please, everybody, open your cameras.
সুধীর,
Yes,
আমি একটা বাংলায় কোশ্চেন করি, তুমি ইংরেজি করে দাও টিটোর কাছে।
definitely. I will translate your Bangla, no problem.
ওকে, আমার কোশ্চেনটা হচ্ছে ওই 69-এ যখন খুব কঠিন সময় যাচ্ছে এবং সিলো তখন প্রথম আত্মপ্রকাশ করে হিউম্যানিস্ট মুভমেন্টের, ওই সময় সামরিক বাহিনী দেশ চালাচ্ছিল এবং তাদের সিলোকে খুব ক্লোজলি সিলোর অ্যাক্টিভিটিস ফলো করছিল। সো ওই টাইমে এই সব ব্যাপার নিয়ে সিলো কি কখনো প্রশাসনিক হ্যারাসমেন্টের শিকার হয়েছিল কিনা?
Okay, Arif has a question that when all these activities started, there was dictatorship. And did Silo face any persecution, any harassment from the dictatorship?
I was working with him in Mendoza, but that was after 69. Probably it was 72. They're still under the dictatorship. We were working to prepare something, or I don't remember exactly the details, and we were arrested. We were stopped. They were asked for papers, and then Silo provoked them. Then he started to. He pretended that he said, "What is your phone number?" And then he started to pretend that he was using a letter code that all the clandestine groups at the time used. That so the officer, that was a very pretentious military officer, say, "Code of letters," he said. Stilo looked at him and she said, "Yes, code of letters." So they put us in a jeep and they took us to some military office, etc. And then they start to make phone calls. In the meantime, we will continue discussing with Silo, but not provoking them any further. And after that, they said, "Well, we know him," and etc., etc. And they ordered release. So that was harassment more than really any sort of punishment. I don't know if he was in Cordoba. I think he was arrested, but Tito may know before that, because I was in Cordoba then.
Yeah, he says was arrested many times, but since I like to pinpoint this anecdote that depict him so well, there is one that we remember in these days because was a member that explained to us, and maybe in the 68 or something like that, or at the big, 68. He went to the north of Argentina, and at that to exchange with the members there. And when he arrived there, he learned that one of our members was caught and sent to jail. But we didn't know, or they didn't know where was him, in where location was him. So this member that was originally from here, very young, it was in the secondary school, came back all the way in buses, went to see Silo. I said, "Yeah, I came to tell you that this member have been put in jail and we don't know where he is. Oh, this, how happened? How come? And he asked him, what do you have to do now? No, nothing. I just arrived. Let's go to the police. Let's go to the police station, to the National Police Station. It's in downtown Mendoza. So they went there, and Silo talking to the officer, he said, we want to know where is our member that was in jail in the north of Argentina, because we don't know where he is. Well, Mr. Rodriguez, I don't know, because we are here. No. Because if he is very dangerous, I am more dangerous. We are very dangerous. So you have to put us in jail immediately, because we are very dangerous people. No, Mr. Rodriguez, it's not possible. Please talk to your superior that I am very dangerous. And I have to be in jail until you tell me where is my friend. Well, finally, they accepted and put him, these two, Mario and Hector, went to the jail, to the city jail. No? And the next day, the officer came and tell him, well, very sorry, Mr. Rodriguez, I have to leave you, have to let you go free, because first of all, we located the member is in Villa Devoto, is in the jail, in the general jail in Buenos Aires. And second, we need the jail. We need the jail because we have now new people to have been captured. So we please
more dangerous than you.
Are free now. And then the situation finished. But that showed the I don't know, the temper of this Silo, so special. And the other one was similar when, and I don't know, you heard when he presented the religious, inner religious lecture in Buenos Aires, in a Swiss hall, in a Swiss house. Imagine the Swiss, more peaceful impossible, and it's a big theater in downtown Buenos Aires. And the police came in buses to put everybody in jail. And they put all together the jail. The buses went to this big police station I mentioned before. And the member who told me that we are with him, imagine what he did. As soon as he arrived to the jail, he went to talk to the other people who were in jail. Why are you here? What happened? What did you do? So he interviewed the other people, and the other people was leftist. This was really dangerous because we don't know at what time things of the arms will come up. But he never mind. He was very interesting to talk to them. And then come a saying, I don't know if you hear that, he says, yeah, they don't know very well what they are doing. They are, ¿cómo se dice, Antonio? Arrastrado.
They are pulled over. They are carried.
Pull over, carry out by the dream, by the reverie of the epoch of the leftist and the army and all this Che Guevara story. And they don't know what they are doing. They are not well informed. They are not updated, he says. It's incredible. And of course, later on they were free, no? But this is another moment I learned about this. But the most important thing was when he no, it's not the word. He was attacked in the house here in Mendoza. in the latest dictatorship, the 74, 76, somebody came with a gun and shoot a couple of times. So Silo went there out at night in his family house with a flashlight like this. So not like this, like this, looking around, and nobody was there. Okay, no problem, never happened, nothing happened. So he himself, the next day, went to talk to the general in charge of the region that was called the Blanco General, the white. And I said, listen, this happened to me yesterday night. What is this? I am a peaceful person. I am with my family. Oh, sorry, Mr. Rodriguez, we don't know. It's not from us. I am sure something else. So we never knew what really happened. If so was a false attack, a false alarm, or a phony thing, but this was more or less the last event with these people. But it's interesting to mention, Antonio, what Antonio says, that when Pinochet came to Chile and established the dictatorship, Silo says, I will never go again to Chile till Chile is free. And he didn't go to Chile for years, for decades. So the friend from Chile came to visit him. And Wilfredo, Wilfredo was explaining to me, he received us very kindly, give us a breakfast, give us a dinner, presented the place to sleep. You have a nice time, and they talk and talk and talk, all the strategy, everything we can do in this moment of so complicated. And at the next day, when everybody leaves, go peacefully, don't provoke this guy, crazy guys. Okay, bye-bye. And the first day, the dictatorship of this guy finished, Silo went to visit Chile. This, yes, I keep my word. When this guy is over, I came again to see my friend. So many things. But I wanted to mention something that I have in mind, coming back to the beginning, when he decided to use this name of Silo, we didn't know exactly what it meant. But in this country, that is a country with a lot of grains, there are a lot of, in harbors, in many places, there are a lot of silo as a warehouse to store wheat. And I think exactly cylinders, tall. And I think he used this name, and the meaning of that is an endless box where you can have wisdom, details, more details, branches, long. Even today, we see, for instance, the social networks, and somebody published one chat, another chat. I am relearning many things that are published nicely, and I don't know when this chat was recorded. So interesting, so appropriate. And this is Silo, an endless warehouse where we can find many advices, many resources. And I will, sorry, I came to my mind an anecdote, very interesting, that is one of my guidelines. And it's like that, it goes like that. Imagine, we were in a Humanist party center, in downtown Buenos Aires, in a locale of the political party. And at that moment, at night, when we were looking the place with a group of friends, he says, well, you might think, how are we going to do so that people get interested into our things? Well, people have other needs than the basic needs. Had need of affections, had need of knowing each other, had need of belonging to something, to participate in things, and other internal needs, and other more internal needs. I was looking at him surprisingly even today, and says, well, we have many resources and we are able to create environment, we are able to create atmosphere, situations, environments, so the people can find a way to get answers to these needs. This is very interesting how he present from another moment our activities. Is not interesting?
Thank you, Tito, and thank you, Arif, for provoking such an answer which came out with more events. If some other friends have some remarks, some questions, or some brief experiences to share, we welcome
I need
them.
a little break.
We will not have a break in this meeting. We will close the meeting whenever we want to. So, अगर किसी को कोई और सवाल करना है, कोई बात करनी है, कुछ पूछना है, कुछ बताना है, तो आपका स्वागत है. By the way, we didn't plan the duration of the meeting, so it is by consensus. As long as we like to have the meeting, it is welcome. And especially as long as our guests of the day, Tito and Antonio, would like to tolerate us and our questions, we will go on.
May I know what the inspiration or the motivation, or what was it that propelled you coming from the other side of the world to come to Asia, to share this, to bring this message of Silo to Asia? Any answers?
It was planned like that, Karina. The movement started, as you see from the preliminary stories that Tito relates, with the intention of spreading this message all over the world. Is insignificant. I mean, this proportion between a small secondary town in Argentina and the world. What is that? And yet we went like that. People went without speaking languages. When I went to live in Sri Lanka, I couldn't speak English. And there is Sherwin David, that is one of my first associates in that country. So I had to go to the British Council and took a course in English. And in the proportion that I was learning, of course, most of the people in Sri Lanka couldn't also speak English fluently. So I went to work with university students, because they were families that they were already in education, higher education. And in that way, I started to communicate and managed to form very large groups, and to also get the support of lecturers, young lecturers in the university, who found very interesting the ideas. And following the same example of that everything was possible in which we were formed, that's the way that we were acting. And of course, 3 or 4 years after being in Sri Lanka, the civil war started. And then it was a very cruel civil war, and they expelled all what they call NGOs. because they didn't fully understand what we were doing. And I always defined that we, in the community for human development, we were doing that. We were helping people to develop. And that we were in education. But still, with all that, they canceled the visas and we had to leave. But yes, again, dictatorships, again, aggression against the violence of the system exacerbated. But that was, Karina, part of a plan that we, with the people who had been older time, longer time training and forming, that they had more clarity and they had more capacity for organized action, were invited to go to different countries. And then like that, Tito went to Europe in the beginning, I understand, to Spain. And we and Margarita, that was my partner at the time, we went to live in Peru. And from there, I kept moving to other countries, always in a missionary sort of plan and project.
And Australia.
And Australia. When I had to leave Sri Lanka, I went to Australia because I could keep the management of the area. It's the nearest Australia. And today, you know, the geography has changed that we talk about Asia Pacific. So it has become part of the geography. So that's it.
So
All a
it
plan.
was part of a real plan, and there were people who really wanted to do this, to go to the different countries, to be able to share what Silo had to share. It was really a plan.
Yes.
They were welcome also because really once we send a mission to a country, we knew that there we had a point of support. So later on, people, because of political persecution or things of the sort, they were forced to leave or they preferred to leave. And then they came then to strengthen whatever we had already formed in different parts.
Tito,
Yes, it was from the very beginning was an intention, was planned to go to places. And he mentioned the word opening places. And I tell you something, in the 90s, at the end of the 90s, some people from Europe Argentinian wanted to come back and to live in their country, and ask him, listen, Negro, you think it's time to cancel this long stage of traveling and go to places? Yes. We are going to stop this stage of opening places. And then we feel, we don't know, we don't have to go anywhere else. Now you all have to go. Another wave.
Exactly.
Yes, indeed. Any other question, remarks, experience to be shared? Please go ahead. We are among friends. We can talk in any language and somebody will translate you.
Questions?
हम लोग किसी भी भाषा में अपना सवाल पूछ सकते हैं, कोई ना कोई आपके बात को अनुवाद कर देगा। আমরা কোনো ভাষায় বলতে পারি, কেউ একজন না অন্যজন অনুবাদ করে দেবে। ঠিক বলেছি আরিফ?
Today, can we do an office in Hindi or in Banga?
No, we can do it in English.
Okay.
Can I just make a comment, Sudhir, if I'm allowed? I listening to both Tito and Antonio, and listening to the many difficulties they had at the time, and it's not so dissimilar. It's not so different.
No.
The situations that we have today, and the ability they had to sort out difficulties and problems and things like that is something that we also have. So what they relate to me in particular is an inspiration to continue this work in Asia Pacific, our backyard. This is where we live.
You're very
Yeah.
right, Declare, and I think Tito said that very clearly, though in a laughing way, but I think that's an inspirational kind of orientation. He said that you all need to carry this forward. So, like from here, we have had some missions to Chennai, to Calcutta,
Wow.
to Kerala, and we had a fast growth mission also to Calcutta. And in addition to that, in addition to formal missions, we have had people going to different places to start the movement. And we have wonderful activities going on in different places. Like we are spreading all over Kerala now. We have gone to various districts and cities of Maharashtra and to many other states. So this is definitely an effort, but probably, as Declan says, we need to get back to organizing these efforts a little more closely and to do them strongly to get good effects. We remember that we were in one city in India, and today we have one park which is fully made. We have another park for which land has been donated, and we are waiting to raise funds to build. We have another park in Kerala where the land is bought. They'll be changing the plot soon due to certain government regulations. So all these have been wonderful experiences and startings and spreadings across India. We have gone to Nepal from here. Today we are coordinating between India, Nepal, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Philippines quite closely. We have a forum that is growing up to do all that. But yes, I personally feel, and I echo what Declan says, that maybe we need to or better or more closely organize these activities of growth so as to get much better effects and results.
So sometimes we kind of, because of the geography of the planet, we feel isolated, like if there's no other people around. But these moments, thanks to technology, allow us to have these kind of meetings. We don't necessarily have to have such a scheduled plan or anything, but sometimes it's good to see other faces. I'm happy to recognize so many faces, so many friends here that I've met in my travels along the years in Bangladesh, in you see, and India and so on. So I think it's an important perhaps a stepping stone, this talk from Tito and Antonio, to move to another moment in Asia Pacific. And so, so we can work together, collaborate together, exchange, because you have the same problems we have in every place, and we have wonderful projects coming up, with the Third World March next year, and it's just, so if we could maybe sometime just talk about our elements like today, it would be fantastic. It's a really great experience for all of us who are somehow isolated feel isolated sometimes because of the geography. Yeah.
Thank you, Declare, for that. Taking a cue from what you say, I propose that let's have once a month an informal meeting.
Yeah.
Without any agenda, and the agenda can be just put in the meeting, whatever we want to talk about. How about doing it every month, last Sunday of the month, at the same time like today? No fixing of agenda in advance, just as Declare says, just to look at each other, see each other, talk to each other, and have it. Let's call it a virtual cup of tea together.
Yes. I also think that our friends from anywhere should be able to speak their own language, right?
Yes.
Bring
So we
your
can have-
question, bring your topic, and just, if you come here and your English maybe is not as good, I know mine is not so good, but you know, just speak your language and somebody else
Yeah.
will be able to translate, and somebody
Yeah.
else will, you know, I think rescuing the Asia Pacific or the subcontinent richness in culturally and in language will help us, you know, bring the whole backyard we have, you know. Yeah. I remember one time that I met Silo somewhere in Buenos Aires. He just talked to me and said, you know, you are in Australia. And I said, yeah, I'm in Australia. Well, you got a whole continent for you. He said, and I felt a little bit overwhelmed by that. But now we have a whole number of continents together, you know, together. So we're not just one, we are many in Asia Pacific. And I really love that. I really feel that as a strong bond between us. I think it is, because this is us, you see, in this part of the world.
Thank
Yeah.
you very much.
Good idea, but I would put a little condition, that is to come for tea, you have to bring 2 people who haven't been in this club. Because what happens is that we join together, we talk amongst ourselves, and the world continues ignoring us. And what we have to think at this stage is the world.
Yes.
So to be entitled to have tea with your friends, bring 2 people who can discover by following the conversations what is going on. And then will be many more. At one point, I mean, will be 200. That is a serious time to thinking in expansion, I think. The world is changing so quickly that, and we have to talk to people in simple terms about our experience, about the things that they also feel in their hearts, and they don't have a solution because they ignore Silo's teachings. And we are the bridge to teach them.
Thank you, Antonio, for that idea. I take the suggestion of doing the office, the brief ceremony. And after that, we can continue chit-chatting with those who wish to stay. So please unmute your microphones, or I will do that. Please mute, sorry. And I will do this in English today. Perhaps next time we can organize it together in English and Hindi. So let's sit comfortably with our eyes closed, with a positive attitude for the deep work that we are going to do for a few minutes. Repeat after me the next 4 lines. My mind is restless.
My mind is restless.
My heart is troubled.
My
My
heart
heart is
is
troubled.
troubled.
My body is tense.
My
My
body
body is
is
tense.
tense.
I relax my body, my heart, and my mind.
I
I
relax
relax my body,
body,
my heart,
heart,
and my
and
mind.
my mind.
My mind.
I invite you to meditate on this line from the path. Do not let your life pass by without asking yourself, who am I? Do not let your life pass by without asking yourself, where am I going? Completely relax your body and quiet your mind. Then imagine a transparent and luminous sphere that descends toward you until it comes to rest in your heart. Notice that the sphere begins to transform into an expanding sensation within your chest. The sensation of the sphere expands from your heart toward the outside of your body at the same time that you deepen your breathing. You will feel new sensations in your hands and the rest of your body. You will perceive increasing undulations. Positive emotions and memories will arise. Allow the passage of the force to take place freely. This force gives energy to your body and your mind. Let the force manifest within you. Try to see its light within your eyes and do not stop it from acting by itself. Feel the force and its inner light. Let it manifest freely. With this force that we have received, let us concentrate our minds on the fulfillment of what we truly need. Peace, force, and joy to you all.
Also for you, peace,
You too.
force, and joy.
And joy. Thank you,
Peace,
Sudhir.
force, and joy.
Enjoy to you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank
Sudhir.
you.
Fantastic.
I invite Nailesh to share his closing remarks from Khandroli Park.
Peace, force, and joy to all my dears.
Come, Nailesh. Where are you hiding?
Yeah.
Cristina del Rio.
Okay.
Hi. Hi, Emma.
Okay, friends. So,
Is
once
Nilesh
again,
coming? Nilesh coming?
I don't see him. Anyway, Nailesh or somebody else from Khandroli Park is welcome to be here for a while. Maybe they have disconnected or something. Anyway, let us formally close the meeting here with heartfelt thanks to, first of all, to declare to propose this idea and Khandroli Park to take it forward, and for Tito to agree to share his wonderful experience, and for Antonio also to come and share his experiences. I'm sure all of us feel more enriched internally with this event, and this will have some interesting consequences in the near future. On behalf
Thank you.
of all of you, I thank all of you.
Thank you, Sudhir. Thanks to you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
Antonio, and thank you, Tito.
It was great to be with you all.
Same
Sudhir,
here.
Great people.
Thank you, Sudhir, for organizing this.
One little comment I would like to bring the memory of a dear friend that we spent many hours in conversations, who is Ayapa. Ayapa was a truly reference to all of us in this part of the world, and we feel a special love for him and his journey with Silo for so many years. And he's been in many places in the subcontinent. And so I just wanted to bring his memory into this meeting, because I think he's here now. You don't see him, but he's here.
I would want to add Linesh Bhai to that name.
Yes. Yes, they are all with us in our hearts, and we do feel them with us. There is absolutely no doubt about it.
Sudhir, will you email me the recording?
No, I will mail to everybody except to Karina.
Oh.
Yes, Karina, we will put it on YouTube. And by late night or tomorrow, we'll have the link.
Perfect.
We'll do that. Of course,
Wonderful.
we'll do. Of course, we'll do that. Thank you, friends. Thank you
Thank you very much,
Wonderful.
Tito.
All the
Wonderful,
best.
wonderful,
Big
and
hugs.
Antonio.
Big
Peace,
hugs
force,
to
and joy to
everybody.
all.
Peace,
Okay.
peace, and
Take
joy.
care.
All right.
Nirmala, it was
Bye-bye.
wonderful seeing you after a long time, and I hope we'll see you
All the
more
best.
now.
Yeah, all
Thank
right.
you, Sherwin. Thank you, Enric.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
friend from
Bye,
Bangladesh.
friends.
Thank you, Manju. Thank you, everybody. Bye.